All right, I'd like to call the regular session of the Richmond Exempted Village School District back into session at 6 o'clock today. So the first item on our agenda is approval of the agenda for report. So it is recommended the Board of Education approve the following. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
I'll second.
Mr. Duvall introduction, Mr. Wheaton the second. Roll call.
Mr. Duvall?
Yes.
Mrs. Story?
Yes.
Mr. Wood? Yes. Mr. Zimmerman?
Yes. All right, recognitions and awards.
The best part of the agenda is happening right here, right now. Tonight, we're going to feature Monroe Elementary. Dr. Jamie Coon's going to recognize one of her wonderful students. And you all should get double credit for being here on a holiday.
Absolutely.
So absolutely. So that's a double award. So Dr. Coons, please.
Good evening. It's always really easy to recognize folks when they do one great thing or there's some special event. It's a little bit harder when you're recognizing students for the character that they demonstrate every day. And that's why I am so proud to recommend Camden Spinati for November's Leading Lion Award. Camden shows great character through his friendship, through his ability to be a role model, and through his academics. I have had the privilege of working with Camden for the last 5 years, so I met him when he was in first grade. And Camden packs a special lunch to school every day to make sure that it is peanut and tree nut free. Not because he has allergies, but because he doesn't want his friend who has allergies to sit alone at the allergy table at lunch. He is a great role model. He always has a smile on his face. And I say it's hard to have a bad day when you're smiling. And I can always count on him to help me be a role model for our younger students when I go into our cafeteria with over 200 loud kids to play the quiet game. So we'll play the statues quiet game, and Camden was always the first one up to participate to show and demonstrate expected behaviors for our younger students. In addition, he's an awesome student. His teachers recognize him and describe him as being an enthusiastic learner. He is outgoing and participating in the classroom. And one of his teachers described him as having a Play-Doh brain. And I thought, what does that mean? And she said, because he's always shifting and molding his thoughts with a growth mindset.
Okay.
Camden has been on the academic honor roll every year, every semester at Monroe since he started receiving grades in second grade. So I am super proud of Camden, and I cannot wait to see the amazing things that he accomplishes. So, Camden Spinati.
Mr. Spinati, would you please come join us up by the backdrop for a picture, please? And parents, if you'd like to join us as well. I'm gonna get some white. Okay, all right. Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. It's a family award. Same way you do.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Again.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam. Appreciate your work. Nice job. Congrats. Nice job. Thank you so much. Go celebrate tonight.
You guys can go.
Okay, next on the agenda is public participation, and we have several people that are going to present to the board, discuss with public participation to the board. So as a reminder, each person has 3 minutes to present their comments, and we'll start with Mr. Brad Hatfield.
Mr. Miller, board members. Thank you, first and foremost, for your commitment to student safety and the well-being of kids across the district. We really do appreciate the work that everybody puts in. I am here as a representative of NRTO to present the union's stance on the arming of staff policy. Through lots of research and discussion, there are some concerns that we have regarding the impending implementation of the program. So first, we did a survey amongst the members of the NRTO. One question was, does arming staff enhance student safety? 59.1% either disagreed with that statement or strongly disagreed. 25% agreed or strongly agreed. 15.9% were neutral. For the question, I am comfortable with the idea that some teachers and staff members will be trained and authorized to carry a firearm at school. 67% disagreed or strongly disagreed. 25% agreed or strongly agreed. This is an important issue to our membership. 75% of those surveyed said that this was either or on a scale from 1 to 10, 75% surveyed said that this was at least a 7 or better as far as their feelings on the situation. And I think this last one may reflect the administrative guidelines that are behind this policy. One person responded saying that they supported the policy and willing to participate. And so therefore our position on this is that we are, as a group, against the arming of teachers first, but also due to the administrative guidelines advising our membership not to participate due to some liability and legal concerns surrounding the policy. Teachers already wear a lot of hats, and we're asked to do a lot of things. Running into an active shooter situation, even on a voluntary basis, in our opinion, is too big of a thing to ask. And the 24 hours or whatever the number is on training, it's just not enough. The sheriff's department says that. I have a friend that's trained by the Marine Corps for these situations, says that that's not nearly enough, and so that's just a part of the concerns. Furthermore, the individual cost associated for someone wanting to participate in the program is, roughly $3,000 per individual. Once everything's tallied up, with a few variables in there, give or take. And this is at a time when teacher salaries in this district are failing to keep up with the increased cost of living, and so with those two things combined, that's a pretty big burden. That's a pretty big weight for a teacher to take on financially.
10 seconds.
10 seconds. Okay. To finish up, we have school crisis teams that respond to bullying situations on a daily basis, and that's something that could be addressed. And my last question is, and I know the community has overwhelmingly supported this, but do they know the details that teachers in those classrooms that are carrying will be required to leave those students that they're responsible for in a situation like this? Because I think that would change a lot of people's minds. Okay, and I'm not anti-gun. I spent the entire weekend hunting with my son and his friends. This is not an anti-gun stance that we're taking here. It's kind of the details of the policy. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you. Thanks. All right, next up, Miss Karen Cahill.
I'm done.
All right, next up is Smith Benedict.
That's me.
Kimberly or?
That's me.
Well, both of you put one in, so I don't know who.
Yeah, I just put that down. So
Okay.
I don't have any prepared remarks, and I don't want to take up 3 minutes. I do appreciate your soliciting comments, and I think you guys do a great job. And I don't want to sound negative, but I just wanted to say things which I think you all know. One is that if you look at the stats for people with guns in the household, the injuries to people with guns in the household are over 50% higher than people who don't have guns in the household. Guns are not necessarily associated with safety. And secondly, if you look at the most well-known incidences of school violence, almost all of them had not a teacher with guns, but actually an armed guard there. And it's not a panacea to have guns. And I want to follow up on my concern, which is just mentioned, is that I just worry about putting a teacher in a situation where they've got different roles that they have to follow, which are not necessarily, in alignment. They could be contradictory in terms of guarding students and protecting students. I remember when Alice first came out, which maybe you guys do too, it was all about getting the students outside, get them away. It wasn't anything about confrontation. It was, how do we find a path where we can secure our classrooms and get the students somewhere they can escape, and the focus of everybody who was taking that training was, how do we keep our students safe, quiet, and then get them out of there? And, I just thought that was just a better program. I thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kimberly, are you going to speak? Yes. Okay.
I'm here as a parent, but I came here, I'm against this policy for many reasons, but I came here tonight because I wanted to support the teachers. Teachers in New Richmond are the cornerstone of our community. I have seen time and again where they have stepped up and gone way beyond the job description to help these kids. They are psychologists, they are mediators, they are any number of things. And to burden them with a gun and to put them in a situation where they may have to use it is, to me, egregious. Maybe people think of this as like an armed gunman that has nothing to do with the school charging in. What if it was a student and they had to take action against one of their own students? And I think the fact that the majority of the teachers are against this policy and you're still trying to push it through is not good. Very disrespectful to the teachers. That's all. Thank you.
So just to clarify how this process has gone up until this point, want to run through some data so the community and everybody else understands how we've gotten to this point. Uvalde, Texas school shooting happened on May 24th, 2022. The governor of the state of Ohio signed the law to allow arming of staff on June 13th, 2022. From that point forward, you can go back and look at all the recordings of our board meetings. We've all talked about it multiple times, shared our opinions, and everything along those lines, so you're free to look at that. We approved the policy on March 20th. That was the first step in the process. At least 2 or 3 safety committees, multiple safety committees, multiple policy committees, every committee that we have that are open to the public, we had the discussion about the administrative guidelines and what they look like. Just so everybody understands, the safety committee is comprised of emergency responders, police, fire, all different branches of the service, all of our schools. So we had input from all those people. An administrative guideline does not have to be voted on, and we shared that with the community. It's been out there on the board docs page since it was finalized, and that was shared with the community on 9/18. But all these different public committee meetings happened at least, you count them up, there's at least 10 there. So just wanted everybody to understand how we got to this point. There was multiple opportunities. We did survey the community. We surveyed all of the staff, not just the teachers, but all the staff, and got their input as part of this whole process of how we got here. So again, we encourage everybody to kind of look at the opinions that are out there. We're not going to debate it here today, but we just wanted to share how we got to this point so everybody understands. So, all right.
Take one question.
No, we're going to move on to the next item in the agenda. So next up is committee reports.
Athletic Council.
Athletic Council.
And the Athletic Council met on October 25th. We heard a nice summary of a lot of accomplishments from that subcommittee over the past year. And if you didn't know, it is now officially a board committee, so I think it's proved its value. We spent a lot of time in this committee meeting talking about pay to participate and looking at the overall cost of sports and activities more generally. There's still some more discussion to be had, but just so the public knows and parties present here, right now, currently the pay to participate goes to transportation fees. So it is only paying for the cost of transporting our athletes to the events. In addition to that, we spent a little time talking about, and I wanted to make sure we highlighted this in a public meeting, the youth sports using our facilities. We want to make sure that anybody who's involved in youth sports is aware of the cost to the district. Right now, they use those facilities at free of cost, but oftentimes we have to deal with cost of broken equipment, so and the usage of lights and facilities. So we ask the public that's involved in that to please care for our facilities and know that it's at free of cost. The other discussion item that you'll hear later on the agenda was we did add additional coaches, 1 assistant wrestling coach and 2 track and field. The assistant wrestling coach you'll see later in the supplementals, and then we'll have 2 additional parties for track and field.
All right, I represent the Finance Committee. We met on November 15th, and 2 big items really. I won't steal our treasurer's report. The 5-year forecast was discussed. Some good news came out of that. You'll hear more about that here in a moment. And then Mr. Fry gave us an update on our special ed program, just for the community's, I guess for the knowledge of the community, we're up about $400,000 increase in special ed budget. So that's a big hit for the district, but certainly something we're covering. So that's it.
All right, Grant. Next, Grant Career Center. Since our last meeting here, we've had 2 meetings at Grant. We had our October meeting. We talked about had the student ambassadors and recruiters, recruitment team there. There was 440 sophomores participated in that exchange between our students at Grant and those sophomores. And then we also talked about mastery-based learning feedback for the first quarter, how that's looking and how that's going. The second meeting was just this past Thursday, the 16th. We had a presentation by the Grant Give Back, community give back that we did on October 13th, Friday, October 13th. It was a great day for Grant. Did different community services in the 4 different districts, and went real well. Had a lot of good feedback about that. We had a guest there also doing a presentation for us, Dr. David Asner. Tracy knows him very well. He's the executive director of BASA, the Buckeye Association School Association Administrators Association. He presented Mr. Perry, our superintendent, with an Administrative Exemplary Leadership Award. So my understanding from Tracy is that he was one of the people that recommended Mr. Perry for that award. So he was real appreciative of that receipt. Let's see, and just a little more about that award. There's 10 regions in the state, 1 award per region, and we're in Region 6. So again, good job. Thank you. Very appreciative.
Glad to do it.
We also had our 5-year forecast presentation with the new funding formula and everything. We looked at the 5-year forecast, and it's positive. We stay positive for the full duration of the forecast. At the end of the forecast, we were still about a cash balance of about $7 million. We also had we talked about the OFCC, the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission. Grant was awarded a $9.7 million grant. 1.2 of it is actually by us, so about 8.5 award from the OFCC. We're going to be building on to the metal fab and allied health services there, and also some more academic teachers. So that was good news. So that'll be going over the next couple of years. So good project.
That's good. That's it. Business Advisory Council, we're not a board committee. I want to report on our last meeting. We had a field trip, went to the high school, and Mr. Stewart led the Business Advisory Council through the newly renovated guidance suite, which is really nice for those who haven't had a chance to see it yet. Then we went to the high school conference room, and Mr. Stewart continued. He gave the Business Advisory Council kind of an in-service on the Naviance program that our kids and our parents use when they get to high school, preparing them for college and what waits for them when they leave when they leave high school. So it's a great program, something I never had when I was in high school. Probably around here didn't have it either, but it's a really nice tool for our kids and for our parents.
All right, the last committee is the safety committee meeting, which is on October 27th. We reviewed the safety day and the feedback from the safety day from all the different buildings. And overall, everybody thinks it's a good process and a good program. So just changing up some of the topics in the future was the discussion point. We reviewed the administrative guidelines for arming of staff with the emergency responders and everybody present. We'd also discussed how we check our doors and security measures and all that, because Forest Hills had somebody get into a building that wasn't supposed to be there, and we just kind of reviewed that and discussed how we check to make sure our doors aren't being propped open. Discussed drill status at all the buildings and some reviews there, what went well, what we could learn from, and then also the emergency responders let us know there's a radio programming update that everybody's going through. So that was the safety committee report. All right, next is the superintendent's report.
Just really one item to report tonight. I had the misfortune to be gone for some days the past couple of weeks for just a medical issue, but it's a season of Thanksgiving, and I wanted to take just a few moments to thank the administrative team because when we operated a skeleton kind of crew, so when one person's gone, everybody else picks up the load a little bit more. So I know it was a burden for me not to be here, but I want to thank them, my good friend Matt Pritchard across the way here, Dr. Jill Hosworth, Mr. John Fry, Mr. Luke Cox, Ms. Brenda Young, Ben Greason, Garth Shanklin. At the building level, Joe Roach, Jamie Coombs, Court Lilly, Jason Lynch, Joe Stewart, and Larry Kozlowski. The administrative team here, I'm very appreciative of having them on our team. They're great. I could go on and on about each one of them. And what I went through is nothing, and I understand that. We have a couple of staff members in our district that are dealing with some challenging issues, and that's just the ones I know about. This makes me appreciative of every day. No one's guaranteed tomorrow, and how quickly things can change. And so, just in this time of season that we're in, I think it's important that we all take a step back, and whatever we're dealing with, boy, it can be a whole lot worse, and it's time to appreciate those that are around us, our loved ones, our family members, and to enjoy this time that we have together. So I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and a merry holiday season as we come up. So that's it, Mr. Zimmerman.
Okay. Next on the agenda is interim administrator contract.
So recommendation, I'm asking the board to approve just a skeleton contract. If we have the need in the future, and we did have this need last year, if somebody will be gone for an extended period of time, not day here, day there, but for weeks, sometimes months, we need to have a mechanism in place that we can bring in somebody from the outside to help carry on the administrative tasks that need to take place. So if you look at it, it's a very generic contract. In-house counsel has looked at it, and I'm asking for the board to approve this so we have this in place.
Okay. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the interim administration contract as presented.
Also move.
I'll second.
All right. Did you get that, Mr. Pritchard?
I did, thank you.
Discussion?
I'll only add, I would never vote this without coming to the board first, so that we're all on the same page.
Yeah. So how that would work is if we're bringing somebody on board, you would bring them to us to approve.
Correct. That is correct.
Any questions, discussion? Roll call.
All right. Mr. Zimmerman?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Mrs. Story?
Yes.
Mr. DePaul?
Yes.
Okay, item 9, interim administrator.
So we have a situation that could be facing us right now. We're still a little unsure of somebody going through some issues. So I'm asking as needed up until, say, Christmas break. So it'd be about maybe 10 to 15 days at most. A former veteran administrator here in the district has agreed to come and help out our middle school just between now and the Christmas break. And that's the recommendation on this item. They would plug into the contract that was just approved. There'd be no fringe benefits. There'd be just like we're bringing in an outside contractor. And so it's a $350 a day, which may sound heavy, but if administrators are typically on a 223-day contract, that amount per day would be a salary of roughly $78,000, which is less than what we would pay an administrator. So to bring somebody in with experience, very short-term process, hopefully, and to get us to Christmas break.
It is recommended the Board of Education approve Phil Heflin on an as-needed basis as the interim administrator paid at a daily rate of $350 per day.
So moved.
I'll second.
Mr. Lee. All right. Discussion, questions? So just to be clear, this is from now until Christmas as needed. So if we don't need the person, it
We
won't
would,
be.
that is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. It'd be like a sub-teacher, like bringing him in.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. Roll call.
All right, Mr. DePaul,
Yes.
Mrs. Story,
Yes.
Mr. Wu,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman.
Yes.
The consent part of the human resource items is very minimal tonight. Do want to recognize Teresa Berkeley. She's going to be leaving us and wish her well this next chapter of her life. I've always enjoyed working with Teresa and the many different hats she's worn for our district, so we wish her well. We're fortunate to continue to find great employees to bring to our district. We have some classified recommendations and also some subs. And then it may seem late for our fall supplementals, but we had a girls soccer change mid-year, and we should have came back in October to make sure this was approved, and it wasn't, so it needs to get approved now. But the treasurer's office will backdate the pay of when she assumed the head coaching roles for girls soccer. For the winter supplementals, you approved a large amount last month. This year, again, for those new here for the first time, the names in black have previously been approved by the board. A name that's in red is new. So we were able to, as Mrs. Story referenced, being able to bring in an extra wrestling coach to help out, especially with our the girls wrestling program. We brought in an extra wrestling coach and then also a volunteer. And that's the consent items for the human resources.
Okay, it is recommended the Board of Education approve items 10A through 10E.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Okay. Mr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Wu,
Yes.
Mr. DePaul,
Yes.
Mrs. Story.
Yes.
Item 11.
As per policy, the board is only permitted to award unpaid leave of absences. We've had that request come to the treasurer's office.
Okay, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the unpaid leave of absence request from Stephanie Adams, classified employee, effective October 28th, 2023 through January 8th, 2024.
Also moved.
Mr. Wood.
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Wood. Any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Mr. DePaul,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Wu,
Yes.
Mrs. Story.
Yes.
Okay, Treasurer's report.
Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman. Item 12A is approval of the work session special meeting minutes. 12B are regular meeting minutes for October, and 12C are the athletic council meeting minutes for October. Item D is approval of financial reports. Mr. Miller, if you could just open the board report, please. Zoom in a little bit. I think the big takeaway from this one is October was the fourth month of the fiscal year. Fiscal year runs from July 1st through June 30th. So what we look for is a third of the way through, about 33%. If you can scroll down a little bit, Mr. Miller, we're looking at expenditures, outflows, what they're called on here. You see that it jumps out. And if we look at that second to the right column, see anything that should be around 33%, that's good. Personal services salaries a little higher. Those have bumped up a little bit this year because of loss of federal funding. Retirement insurance benefits are right around 33%. Personal services a little bit low. Your supplies, materials are 53%, but those are always front-loaded because of the beginning of the school year, and those smooth back out. And we see our capital expenditures and other are much below 33%. So that's really good to look at. Just kind of keep an eye. And if you look at the subtotal there at the bottom, they're about 33%. For all of our expenditures, that's where we should be. So up top is the income or the revenue, the money coming in, but it comes in chunks different. We get 2 big real estate payments every year. And then when those come in, we haven't received our public utility tax payment yet. Those come in whenever they decide to send those to us. So just things come in at different times. So it's really hard to track the revenue percentages so far early in the year, but those are really good to look at as we get towards the end of the fiscal year, which will be May and June 2024. Thank you, Mr. Will. Yes. Item E is acceptance of donations. We are always very appreciative of donations that come in. We have several really good high dollar donations we're very appreciative of. And actually on the last donation, we have Chester Wilson from Energy Optimizers here. They would like to give a $3,000 donation on behalf of Clayton Hunter and Chase Dorman. This is something that they heard about this tragedy last time they're here. We have a relationship with Energy Optimizers right now. We're doing a big project with them, and I think Chester would like to come up just real quickly and talk about why you guys did that.
Yeah, I'm Chester Wilson. I'm with Energy Optimizers, and we're excited to start our project this month. When we were here over the summer presenting the project was when we heard about the awful tragedy, and we just couldn't let something like that come across our path without responding. So Dave Eschball is our general manager. He was here at the time, and he committed to donating $3,000, $1,000 for each child in honor of the boys. So just wanted to
Thank you very, very much. And Mr. Zimmerman, that's all I have for the Treasurer's report this evening.
It is recommended the Board of Education approve items 12A through 12E.
Move.
Second. Any discussion? Okay, roll call.
All right, Mr. DePaul.
Yes.
Mrs. Story.
yes.
Mr. Wood.
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman.
Yes. All right, 5-year forecast.
Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman. We'll pass these around real quick. Get us started. 5-year.
Matt, which one would you like to go with?
The top one, Mr. Miller, if you would. Should be the shorter summary, yes. Maybe zoom in on that a little bit if you could. So twice a year we are required, as every public school district is, to present a 5-year forecast and submit that to the Ohio Department of Education. It demonstrates our financial health for the district and what we're looking at. New Richmond is in a serious financial segue with the power plant closing down in Zimmer, another power plant closing down in this district. This district for the longest time was a 2 power plant district and received a tremendous amount of revenue from being that. And the second plant closure came as a surprise. It's much earlier than we anticipated. It closed in the middle of the year last year. So the forecast is going to show a lot of that revenue loss. Zimmer power plant alone provided $3.5 million to $4 million of revenue to the school district. And we only have about a $26 million budget. So it's a tremendous, tremendous loss. The money won't come from anywhere else unless something were to be repurposed or something like that in that plant, which it doesn't sound like anything's happening soon. So that's really the nutshell of what's going on. Our school district has been very financially disciplined. We've kept expenditures low. This is really a revenue problem. We have just lost a lot of revenue. First lost it with Vector back in 2014, 2015. We had a cash balance we were able to postpone and really weather that storm for a few years. But at the end, we had to go to the community and ask for a levy in 2020. We had to make $4 million in reductions to close down school in this district. So it was it was a big task from the district itself and the public to bridge that financial gap. But unfortunately, we have another storm kind of impending with Zimmer closing as well. So if I could just go over a couple of the key items in the forecast and what's changed. I think item 1.02, which is your second line, this is public utility personal property. So power plants or any kind of utility get taxed two different ways. One is they get taxed with real estate tax like anybody does who owns property. And then the other way is because they're a utility, they get taxed on the equipment and machinery that they use to provide the utility. So for a power plant, that would be the machinery that would generate the power lines, the transformers, anything that taps into the grid. So all that gets taxed separately. The good news with the public utility personal property is we anticipated a lot more of a drop for this upcoming year, but because they were in operation last year for 6 months, those values get determined up in Columbus, and Columbus decided, at least for this year, they're not going to drop those values. So we have that going for us, which is an improvement compared to our last forecast, and also they were delinquent on those taxes paid, the owners of Zimmer. So we're having to pay those back this year and a little bit next year as well. So we're going to see some of that money come in. That's a tremendous change. It's good news for us. It's short term, but it is good news. So that was exciting to see, something good to report there. Item 1.05 is another power plant revenue source we get that's being reduced. This is a deregulation payment. We've had this in New Richmond for years. It goes back to the early 2000s when the power industry was deregulated for the entire state, and districts like New Richmond would have been financially hurt by that. So the state came up with a payment each year to try to offset that, but that payment gets reduced every year. So it gets reduced to almost $350,000 a year, and that payment will be completely gone by the year 2035. So we see that. If you follow your eyes across the paper there, you'll see that get reduced every year. Item 1.06, some other good news. This is all other operating revenues. There's a lot of things get mixed in here. But one of the bigger takeaways this year was I informed the board in January that we were looking to maybe move off of some of our investments that we have in CDs, which earn a lower rate, and put them in our main state bank account, which is earning higher rates. So right now, our CDs earn about 1.9 and 2.9%, and we have to wait till they're called before I can move those monies. And then our Star Bank main account is earning 5.5% because rates have been increased so many times recently. So typically we would earn in a fiscal year from July to June, we would earn a little over $100,000 a year just in interest income alone. But because the rates are so high, we've moved that money up to that bank account. We're going to earn about $750,000 this year. Excuse me. So that's a nice increase in revenue as well. So just trying to find some positives in the forecast, at least short term. On expenditures, I would like to at least point out 3.01, personnel services. This is salaries for our district. For the end of the fiscal year, which ended in June, we spent $13.5 million in salaries alone. And this year we're going to spend $14.9 million. So to the naked eye, it looks like we're spending a tremendous amount more in salaries. What happened was we had federal ESSER dollars that were tied to the COVID relief that we utilized on salaries last year that are dried up and gone. So what you're seeing in this new fiscal year beginning July 1 of this calendar year is that increase. We didn't really increase salaries, but we just don't have the money, federal money, to keep those low. So that's the big change there. And you can see those kind of level off in the remaining years. That is really the forecast in a nutshell. This year, 6.01, that's the important line. With our revenues as far as up, positive or negative, we're going to be negative this year. We had anticipated about $2.7 million to be negative before the good news on the public utility tax money. We're going to be about 1.5. And our cash balance is going to be, at the end of this year, is $13 million, almost even. So that keeps us a little bit ahead of time. Last year, I was recommending that maybe we look at possibly a revenue source, going to the community to look at asking for revenue. For the general election in 2024, I pushed that recommendation out now to summer of 25, maybe fall of 25. We have bought ourselves a little bit of time with the public utility and personal property revenue coming in. Second item I'd like to mention real quick, and I'll pass these around too, is I did a comparison. I was just curious where we were 10 years ago. We talked about power plants closing. This is 2 of them now. I wanted to see how we are doing now compared to what we were 10 years ago. So this is a long time ago, especially for financials and money. So I thought this was really interesting. I went back and looked at actual data from ODE about what we spent and what we had as far as revenue in 2013. And I thought it was pretty fascinating. So for 2023, total revenue for New Richmond schools is $26.3 million. That's all the money we bring in. 10 years ago, we brought in $30.7 million. 10 years ago, we were bringing that much more revenue in. The $26 million we're bringing in includes about $4 million in revenue from the last levy we passed in 2020, the community passed. So without that levy, our revenue is about $8 million less than it was 10 years ago. Again, stating the fact that we have a revenue issue in this district. Because if you look at total expenditures, 10 years ago, this district spent $29.1 million. That was our total expenditures. And in 2023, we spent almost $3 million less, $26.4 million. I don't know how many places, government entities can say they spent $3 million less today than they are 10 years ago, but we're one of them. So I think that's tremendously responsible on the financial side. So this is something I wanted to share and get that out, that there's a lot of effort that went into reducing those kind of expenditures, and it's for everybody. So it's for staff, the administrative team, the Board of Education, everybody's had to sacrifice to get that down and to try to keep us where we have been and bridge these gaps. But unfortunately, we have another storm looming financially because of things that's really out of our control with these revenue sources and these plants closing down.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pritchard.
Thanks, Matt.
It is recommended the Board of Education approve the 5-year forecast as presented.
So moved.
Ms. Story,
I'll say.
I'll second.
Okay, good.
Discussion. Any other comments, questions?
I just got one comment about the ESSER funds. I remember back when we started receiving those ESSER funds, that was one of my concerns, is that as we absorb more positions because of the ESSER funds, that once we got, those funds went away, we would have trouble letting go of those positions or throw them back. Perfect example right here.
That's not what you're seeing here, though. You're just seeing it's just a simple A minus B. It's a simple of we applied $1.8 million of ESSER funds just towards salaries alone last year. And since they dried up, you'll see that jump in the forecast. But it wasn't because of newer those ESSER positions staying. It was just because we don't have the money to apply to it. That's a great point. You're absolutely right.
Just, I mean, I didn't see it offset anywhere else, you know what I'm saying?
It's offset in benefits as well. We use on some of our benefits as well. I should have mentioned that.
No problem, thanks.
Can you explain how the fiscal years work for people that are reviewing the report?
Sure. Fiscal years for a school district run July 1st through June 30th. So our fiscal year 24 started July 1st because the fiscal year represents when the year ends for us. So fiscal year of 2025 will start July 1st next year. So that year ahead.
So I know we haven't, I know you wrote something about the levy, right?
Sure, they kind of ask. Sure.
So from a modeling standpoint, I'm obviously just give some feedback as to what is a preliminary, what does it look like as far as maybe your ideas of would it be an income tax possible or would it be?
I think we should explore them all.
Okay.
Right? You know, there's an income tax you can look at as far as revenue source and earnings tax. And of course, there's different types of property tax levies. There's permanent levies. There's emergency levies. And you know, the district could ask for any of those. I think it's best to to evaluate those to see what kind of revenue can possibly generate from the district, which best for us and the community.
I guess one point is you look at the cash balance, and have we not padded the cash balance and kept that balance thick up to this point, we'd have been.
Yeah, and that's where ESSER funds really help by applying those to salaries and benefits.
So it bought us basically.
It bought us more time. That and the public utility tax revenue bought us more time as well. And that's what we're trying to do. We know the storm's looming. We're just trying to.
For sure.
We are, as long as we can. Yeah, we don't want to spend unnecessarily any kind of unnecessary funds, and we don't want to ask the community for any kind of revenue before we have.
Matt, at what point does this deteriorate down before the state wants us to really start doing something?
So once you get a year outside of having a negative balance on your cash balance, the state will throw you into one of their watcher, in the urgent designation, they'll do that.
So is this will trigger that?
You should trigger it this year, or probably trigger it next year, because our cash balance is still in good shape. So they'll see next year when I submit the 5-year forecast, they'll see in about 2 years that we're going to be delinquent on our cash balance. At that time, they should go to one of those designations.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Anything else?
Just to reemphasize again, Matt, I think it's so powerful when you mentioned this at the Finance Committee meeting. Just expenditures. 10 years ago, 2013, to today, how many millions less are we spending?
Almost $3 million less annually.
That's incredible.
Right.
You think about everything is more expensive, from fuel to salaries to benefits to electricity. Everything's more
Everything
expensive.
is cheaper than it was 10 years ago.
We're spending $3 million less than we were 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's a lot of work by people in this room and
New
beyond.
Richmond Schools does not have a spending problem.
Thank you.
And there's some spending things that are out of our control, right? I mentioned in the Finance Committee report that we have special education's gone up over $400,000. That's beyond our control. The kids come here, we got to educate them. We got to give them the services. That's something we cannot just say, hey, you can't come here. Go somewhere else. We have to pay for it. I want to make sure the community knows that when these kids come, it creates an issue from a financial standpoint. And we're going to educate them. We do a good job with it. John tries to minimize and
Do the best you can.
it's the stuff you can't control.
And the previous 2 years, our special ed spending was level. It didn't increase.
Right.
It just happened to increase this year. So.
You control the controllables and the uncontrollables, you
Try to manage.
that's right.
Roll call.
All right. Mr. Fall?
Yes.
Mrs. Story?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Zimmer?
Yes. Okay, academic report.
Good evening. I'm happy to have the opportunity to just give you a quick update about curriculum and instruction. Our science teachers are continuing to work on our curriculum revision for this school year and have identified resources we would like to review. Those samples have been ordered for us to look at. We'll be doing that over the next couple of months. Our math teachers are continuing to meet and plan prior to each unit of instruction, doing a great job. We are grateful to have the opportunity to revise our curriculum and to have new resources. But it is a heavy lift on teachers when we do that. And no matter how great the opportunity, their first year of implementing new programs or new resources is a lot of work, a lot of learning, a lot of time. I saw last year our ELA teachers do that, went above and beyond what I've really seen teachers do across my career, and I'm seeing the same thing with our math teachers this year. So just remain extremely impressed by how hard all of our K-12 ELA and math teachers, and anticipate the same with our science teachers for next year. On November 7th, we had a day of professional development at the building level, and teachers participated in a number of different training opportunities, including being trained on sources of strength, reading intervention programs. Our special education and core instruction teachers were able to do some collaboration, professional development at the departmental level at the secondary grades, and our middle school and high school teachers collaborated on transitions from 8th grade to 9th grade. So it's a really valuable day, and teachers remain, as our administrators do, just very committed to our students.
So social studies will be the next one after science?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Joe.
Communications.
So tonight, we are going to take a little bit of a journey through the arts, and these are going to autoplay, so we have something to look at that's not me. These are photos from events throughout the district the last month or so. 2 of the plays, both at the secondary level, and 1 at the, and then the Veterans Day events, both at the primary level. These aren't autoplaying, are they?
Nope.
No, they're not. You can just click through them whenever you want.
Okay.
So the first one is Puffs, and this was the high school play that was earlier this month. Through Pay Schools, they sold 154 tickets for this event. It was one of the weirdest and most fun things that I've ever seen. If you don't know what Puffs is a retelling of the Harry Potter stories through the eyes of some of the Hufflepuffs, who didn't really do too much during the books. And you got to see, this right here, for instance, was Harry. You got to see, the next slide is how they very creatively came up with Lord Voldemort for the first book. They did a fantastic job. The sound was great, the lights were great, everything about this play was magical. And it was, again, I cannot stress enough how weird it was. As someone who has read the books and watched the movies, seeing them put this on, it was probably one of the highlights of my month. And every single person involved did a fantastic job recreating the characters, recreating some of the sets. Harry Potter was unhinged throughout most of the play. They did a puppet show for the history of the founding. In the middle of it, they were just wonderful. And then you can see how well the cast got along right at the end there. There's a baguette and there's a shark, and it was a weird night all around.
Looks like they had fun.
They had a blast. There's a lightsaber. They did math right at the end. They pulled out a whiteboard, and at the end of it, it really kind of hit home the story of, yes, Harry was the main character in the story, but everyone is a main character to somebody. And even if you think you don't matter, you matter to somebody.
You matter.
And then Harry came on and gave a hug to Dumbledore, and that's how it ended. So after that, we had the 2 Veterans Day ceremonies. There was the one at Locust Corner, the reverse parade, which is what you're looking at here, and the breakfast out at Monroe. And these kids were fantastic out at Locust Corner. This takes everything that I'll talk about tonight. It takes a lot of heavy lifting from a lot of people to make it happen. And I heard after the breakfast in particular, everyone coming up to you and talking about how it affected them and how thankful they were that you still do it. And we heard the same thing out at Locust Corner with these parades. And the traffic worked. I don't know why there's just blank slides in the middle of it, but the traffic seemed to just work itself out.
We're back to the play.
Well, that's a different play. That's Disney's Descendants.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's Descendants from Disney. I wonder if it just didn't save. Anyway, well, the Locust Corner parade was fantastic. The breakfast was amazing too. I wish that it would work. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't.
So just imagine the Monroe breakfast happening right here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It'd be really strange.
Yeah. So this is the second play. This is Descendants. And the story about this one is that these are children of Disney villains. So you had Maleficent, you have the Evil Queen from Snow White, you have Jafar from Aladdin, and you have the Cruella de Vil from the 101 Dalmatians. And it's about bridging differences between people and finding out that there are things that bring us together, even if we think that that's not the case. And this was another one of the most unhinged nights I've had since I started here about a year ago. These kids had an absolute blast dancing and singing, and they all did a fantastic job. And you can tell just by some of the faces how expressive and surprised that they were during some of these scenes. They did wonderful. It was a very great, and they sold in just a week, putting the promoting together for this and getting the stuff up on Pay Schools. They sold 219 tickets to the shows. So one of the other things that didn't actually show up here was supposed to be, look at the website. There was with winter sports starting, we've updated the winter sports website. Schedules, stats, standings, all that kind of thing can now be actually found on those pages, and it will link to the SBAC website so you can find that stuff without having to dig through the SBAC website. So, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Shaker. Very good.
Yeah, Mr. Shaker and I really do appreciate the pictures every month. They keep bringing those.
Yeah, it's awesome. We'll post those on the website.
Good.
There's all of them showed up.
All right, adjournment. So moved. Ms. Mr. Dufaul, any second? Since Tyler's not here. All right, roll call.
Mr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mrs. Story,
Yes.
Mr. Wooden,
Yes.
Mr. DePaul.
Yes.
6:55 p.m.